But good morning to everybody watching. Welcome to Kernels. If you are joining us, kernels are pops of information that a librarian can use at their library and adapt for their libraries. And all of our kernel videos are pops of library practices or ideas that librarians watching at their libraries can use. All of our kernels are on the State Library of Iowa's continuing education webpage on the YouTube channel. With me today, we have Trista Peitzman and Nicki Mullins from Iowa PBS and Kayla Rothmeyer from Perry Public Library. Together, they have created the Iowa PBS Farmers Market Program, and we're going to talk a little bit about what that program is and how you can incorporate the Farmers Market Program at your library. And good morning to everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for joining me today. So just to open it up, can you guys just share with us about the Farmers Market Program and basically how did the idea come about?
Well, I guess I'll start. We received a Ready to Learn grant from PBS and CPB, which is a grant that is for PBS stations. And so we received that grant, and as part of it, we were looking to work on skills like everyday literacy. We were working on skills like careers and trying to implement those. Computational thinking. And so with all of those things, I was going out and meeting with potential partners. And so the Perry Public Library was one of our partners, as well as the Perry Chamber of Commerce. And so when I sat down with Lindsay and Misty and started talking about what our goals were and how we could implement some of these programs in, or use these skills in Perry with children, they said, gosh, you really ought to, do something at our farmers market. It makes, perfect sense. You could be talking to vendors and you could be, doing some everyday literacy type skills, some early math, computational thinking, all of it just really fit. And so I was noodling on all of this thinking, oh, how am I ever going to get all of this done? And
Right.
hoping that the library could be a lot of the heavy lift of all of this planning. And then we hired Nicki. And I said, oh, Nicki, here is a great project for you to really cut your teeth on and just run with it. And she did. So she came up with so many great activities and pieces of this farmers market that once we started using it the first year, we knew we really wanted to expand it and get it out to other communities in Iowa, but also communities across the nation. So that is exactly what we're doing. So
Yeah. And it was really easy to create learning activities that centered the everyday literacy. And what we mean by everyday literacy, it's also called functional literacy sometimes.
Mhm.
And it's the literacy skills that you use in your everyday life, not just in the small pockets that you have a book or a magazine open and you're actually reading a text or listening to a story. It's the literacy that you use when you're cooking and you're reading a recipe, when you're making a list to go to the store, when you're reading your maps or looking at a driving route, all those sorts of things, along with financial literacy as well. And that's where kind of a core pillar of the market program came about, was the Perry Market Bucks as well. But yeah, the chamber did approach us and ask us to have a presence at the market, and we centered the market dollars as kind of the main component. We wanted kids to have a few dollars in their hands to interact one-on-one and directly with the vendors. And then from there, we kind of built activities out that supplemented that experience, like the vendor conversation starter game. So when they're actually handing the money to the vendors for their tomatoes, their corn, whatever it would be, are there questions that they can ask the vendor to learn a little bit about agriculture or Iowa or really any trades while they're spending the money, and just kind of supplementing that interaction. But it was really great to be approached by the chamber and the library for that ask. It was a clever ask. I'm really glad they did, because the farmers market is just a really great place for some summer learning to happen. And the library was absolutely very important to implementing this program because one, they're familiar with implementing summer programming already. They have a lot of experience engaging and motivating the community to join up in a summer program and then keep it going throughout the summer. That energy they're used to, as well as, they're central to the community. So having Kayla on to know the kids by name, to know the family so well, to be able to be at the library throughout the week when we were back at the office and remind them about the farmers market program was so important. And that's why I think we're kind of starting with libraries as we get the word out there about this program, because we just think it's a nice fit. It was in Perry, thanks to Kayla. So
Kayla, can you share a little bit as well?
Well, first of all, you guys are so kind. The library in itself, working with these kiddos and like Nikki said, knowing the families, it was just a win-win. Being in the community, knowing everybody, and working with them through the summer and helping them not get that summer slide, as they say. Working on their math skills, their money, and just interacting with those vendors, the farmers, asking them those questions that Nikki had put together, bingo games, and just a multitude of other items and board games, which it really wasn't then like I don't think they really took it upon as learning. It was more of interacting and the communication skills that they're building with these vendors and farmers, just you know uh, out of their box, so to speak, and not being asked to, they're asking the questions to the vendors, and they're asking, how does this tomato come to be, what's the process, how long does it take, how do you start it, when do you start it. It was all those conversation starters that the kids actually took upon themselves. I mean, we were there. I know the families, I know the kiddos, but with Nikki and Trista, they had the starting blocks for it, but these kids actually just went with it. Like they were in control, and they looked for us every week, knowing that we were there every other week. But they would come into the library. Is today the day? Is today the Thursday that we get to go to farmers market? Are you guys going to be there? Well, not today, but we're going to be there next Thursday. Come look for us then. And it was so natural just to be there, and just to see them walk in through the vendors. And Nikki and Trista will contest to this. I would seriously yell out to them, "Hey, we're over here. Come over here. Come see what we have today." And just different things every week, to entice them to come and visit us, to see what's out there at the farmers market, and just a really good essence of community involvement. It was just wholesome.
And Nikki, you put together questions, and I'm hearing this also in the conversation. What kinds of questions were the kids asking the farmers? I've heard tomatoes, how does it grow? Can you share a little bit about that?
yes, let me pull up the bingos. So again, the idea was that they would have something to say and to learn when they approached the vendors to spend their money. So it wasn't just kind of a cold interaction, very quick, like, I guess I want a potato. Here's $1 of the Perry Market dollars. I wanted them to actually do what you do at a farmer's market, which isn't necessarily barter, maybe sometimes barter, but just talk about the produce, talk about how the season is going for the farmers, for the gardeners, for the bakers, all sorts of things. So some of the questions were, who taught you how to farm or garden, bake or craft? Why is it important to know how to do this, how to farm, how to garden? What is a pollinator? Where do you get your seeds? What is compost? How do earthworms help our farms and gardens? What does it mean when food is organic? How do you protect your soil and keep it healthy?
Mhm.
What is your favorite way to eat potatoes? And then we also had questions like a little bit more lifestyle oriented. So, what is your favorite season and why? How early do you wake up to get everything done for the farmer's market? What do you do during the winter? What do you wish you could grow, but you cannot because we live in Iowa, like a pineapple? So you can see a lot of these questions are leading towards some more complex horticultural or agricultural topics, but they're worded in a way that are easy for kids to get a developmentally appropriate answer. And they're also fun and interesting and kind of allude to some fun facts that kids might not know. Like, for instance, pineapples cannot be grown in Iowa. um, One of the other questions is, do you have livestock or pets? And then the favorite of vendors, I think, according to the vendors, was how do you protect your garden or farm from pests and insects or pests and insects. And that was probably their favorite question to get because they got to tell stories about the rabbits getting into their gardens or dogs chasing off deer. If you're a hobby farmer or hobby gardener, it's quite the task to keep animals and squash bugs or whatever out of your garden and keeping it healthy. So they loved talking about the kids about those topics. This activity was a hit with the vendors too, not just the kids. We did get a lot of feedback that the vendors, thanks to this activity, really felt like they were making a difference with the youth in their community. They really felt like they were planting a seed at a young age in the kids to value farming and gardening and baking and crafting and just all of the trades that you might find at a farmer's market. So it was cool to hear from like some elder members of a community that they were also enjoying the activity, not just the kids having fun too.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we were actually concerned about. We didn't want to be disruptive at the farmer's market. We really wanted to be, help pull everything together and not just create chaos there. And I think we were able to do that because the kids look forward to us coming. I think they probably had a lot more children at the market than they had in past years.
Wow.
The kids were, like you said, interacting with the vendors through those questions. And we actually did have the vendors say, "Oh, I love it when the kids ask me the questions." So that was really nice because we didn't, like I said, we didn't want to be a disruption.
Yeah, it was really thanks to the vendors just being open to doing those activities and not feeling bothered or rushed if a child or a family was spending a little bit of extra time at their table to ask those questions and get those answers. So it was really like a credit to the Perry community, which is a super, super special community. So yeah, it was cool to be a part of that.
Definitely. And I love the fact that it's open-ended questions. So it's getting the kids thinking, it's getting the vendors thinking as well. I just love that. Can you talk a little bit about the market bucks and what the kids spent those market bucks on specifically?
Yeah. Do you want to take that? You want me
Sure,
to?
I can.
Mhm.
So yeah, we put limits on the market bucks as far as what the kids could spend them on. So we really wanted to promote the healthy eating habits, and so we told them they could buy fruits, vegetables, eggs, or honey. We didn't really want them buying toys or pre-made expensive meals or drinks there or any other items. So we really wanted them to focus on those things and learn about produce and learn about the items that were brought to the market. And so
Try
that
new
was,
foods.
yeah, try new foods. And so, and as part of that, we also, Nikki created a lot of recipes. And so we would also give a recipe every week or a choice of recipes for the week for the produce that was in season. So the kids could actually, get the recipe from us, get some bucks from us, and then go find the ingredients, which was, great because when you have kids that maybe haven't tried a food, if they actually pick it out themselves, buy it with their money, and then they can take it and actually make it at home, they are much more likely to like it and and try it.
Yeah.
So that's important. With the bucks, we were able to provide each child with $10 in market bucks each time they came to the market. So for each week that they came, they received those bucks along with the activities that we had. And so we had paper activities like the bingo game, but we also had a lot of other activities at our booth, and we tried to switch that up each week. So maybe one week we were doing floating and sinking, and we had a water table with different activities there. Another week, Nikki's mom volunteered a lot for us. And so she would come and she'd have like a scale and a pile of potatoes. And the kids had to weigh different combinations of potatoes trying to get 1 pound, which is just really important for kids to play with things like that so they understand what 1 pound looks like.
Yep.
And so, having that scale, having her there, we had a mystery box where kids could put their hand in to try to guess what vegetable was inside or what fruit. And so then they would pull it out and look and learn a little bit about produce that way as well. And so many of these ideas are just easy things that any library could set up, whether you have the money to supplement bucks or not. You could
Yes.
certainly take these handouts, these recipes. You could do the ideas like the mystery box and the scale, all easy things to set up and implement. And again, we just can't say enough about Mrs. R, Kayla, having that person in the community that knows the kids who can say, "Hey, Robbie, come over here. Here we are. Come on, I've got something for you." That was key to this whole project.
Kayla, can you share a little bit about your experience at the farmers market interacting with these activities with the kids?
Sure. So yeah, like Nikki and Trista said, they would have different items set up, whether it was a coloring table, whether it was the water table, just interacting with them and just letting them know, hey, we're here. And these are everyday life skills that we're building upon, with them, whether they know it or not, but it's fun. It's fun interaction. And the mystery box, what kind of fruit or vegetable is in that box, and just building those relationships and with the families and the kiddos, and just lifetime skills for them just to build upon and know that, hey, we're here and we're part of your community, and if you ever need anything, the library's there. And just with Trista and Nikki's help, and knowing the community and the kiddos in the community, and just the way they had everything set up with the different activities, it just rolled. I mean, it was so easy. It was nothing complicated about it. It was, we're there every other week, and this is what we have and we have to offer, and it's just a familiar face, and they were comfortable with it, and I didn't want it to end. I mean, I seriously didn't want that season to end. That's how fun it was. It wasn't, oh, I gotta go to farmer's market. It was, we're going to farmer's market, this is the day. And I wish that we could be every Thursday, but it was just a lot of fun.
Well, and Kayla was also our person who greeted the kids as they came and took down their first name and their age, because we really wanted some way to track how many kids were coming and how often were they coming. And so, it was just key to have Kayla there doing that. And then the library also provided some tables for us, and they provided some muscle for us. So we had Ethan, giving a good shout out for him, because he was there every week helping to set up everything, setting up a tent, setting up tables, and then there again to tear down everything. And so he was awesome.
So it sounds like there were some stats involved. So collecting those stats, what do you use that data for?
We were just really using it to, figure out how many kids were actually coming to the market. Did they come once and then they were out? Did they come every week? Where were they from? We also collected their zip code. So we basically had their name, their age, first name, age, and zip code. And so that told us, there were kids there from South Carolina, there were kids there from Nebraska, usually just one time because they were visiting their grandparents over the summer for a week. But we also had, we had some kids right in Perry that only came once. We had other kids that were there every single time that we were there. And so it was just interesting to see what kind of response we had, and now we have a much better idea for next year.
Awesome. And so Kayla said this program was easy and simple, easy to just have every other Thursday. As far as the funding goes, if a library wanted to start a farmers market program this summer at their library, what kind of funding would they need for this? Do they need to go to their chamber? How would that work? Because I know there are a lot of people that are excited and they're like, how would they fund this?
Yeah. I want to say first that the market bucks were like central to our program the first year, but absolutely, I think we would have had similar numbers even without the market bucks. They would have come for the prizes. The library donated some books, so when they brought back the vendor conversation bingo, we could give them, a book to read that summer or a bookmark, some bubbles, sidewalk chalk, whatever it would be. So I think that if finding funding for the market dollars piece of the program sounds daunting, or if it's a little too late this year, it is absolutely just as effective on the families and the child's development that summer to just bring our free worksheets essentially, and then something fun to do at the table. So even if you just brought one table, one staff member, some blocks, and one of our recipes, or a water table and the vendor conversation sheet, and you showed up, like that every other week or every week, that would be just as effective. It can be as simple as that. I know a lot of libraries are adjusting this and adapting it to make it into a program that's not perhaps done at the farmers market, but done within the library, kind of like a summer series program, or just like a little day camp and activity hour. So it can be as simple as that and just as effective. But if they are looking for funding for the market dollars, the way that we did it was really thanks to the Perry Chamber of Commerce. She made it very easy for us to slip into an established system that she already had. So she treated our market dollars like she does SNAP and WIC, those coupons. And what's cool about this program is we might not be able to have the funding for each community in Iowa, but we did provide the document of the dollars. So if you were to provide dollars or a way to get food in the hands of kids, you would have that monopoly, that play money to just print out and give to kids, and you can print it, for free. So that is available if you do the market dollars part of the program. But yeah, she treated it like SNAP and WIC. So the vendors, they received the market dollars from the kids. They set them aside like they would their SNAP and their WIC coupons or certificates. And then once a week, Lindsay, the chamber director, would collect, or they would stop into the chamber and turn them in. She would write them a check for each of those 3 alternative currencies, and then she would charge our business office. So that's how it worked between us. But we have been talking a lot about how other communities other than Perry can find funding, where to go for that funding. And I think it's kind of the usual, it's your local businesses. But we also are toying with the idea that funding might not be totally crucial to provide the market bucks experience or to simulate a farmer's market for children. If you can get donated foods to set up a simulated market versus donated cash for the dollars, that might be effective.
Yeah.
If you can, so like a food pantry or food bank, a food donation sort of setup. And we're also talking about, as far as staffing a table, if you have older students looking for an educational experience, perhaps some older FFA students or some older 4-H students might be able to help facilitate the table. So that helps a little bit with like staffing and hours and that sort of thing, the money that goes towards that. But Yeah, any other ideas on
Yeah, I was just
anything
going to
I
say,
missed?
sometimes you can find, some type of a benefactor in your community that really wants to do something for kids.
Mhm.
That might be a possibility, or, looking to those organizations, like maybe Lions or, some other group that would like to provide something like this. But just definitely, like she said, look for the opportunities in your community. Look for the pieces that work for you. Some of our vendors at the Perry Farmers Market did indeed like donate produce at the end of the market of the stuff that they didn't need. So if they were donating it to a local food pantry, that might be a great place to just have an activity for kids afterwards. So there's lots of possibilities. You just need to get creative.
Awesome. And what successes did you see from the farmers market program, if you can share? Were there a child that was just like, I got this awesome food item. I did this.
Yeah.
This is a hard question because that was every week.
Yeah.
There were kids that were just so excited to come and play. And, we noticed toward the end of the market, especially, there were families that would just come hang out in our area. We had tables and shade. And so they would just come and hang out and play and just enjoy the evening. We had some music that was playing near us. And I think it just made it a really relaxing environment. I know we had a lot of very pleased vendors that were excited to be, A, talking to kids, but then B, also selling a lot more of their produce too. So any other things there?
Yeah. No, I think that's the main one. It was just cool to see kids walking and talking with their families, just out in the sunshine, in the fresh air, looking at produce, observing the market, having a little bit, being excited to have the autonomy to buy something for their family. It was cool to see them make the recipes. We did have to provide a little bit more incentive to actually get them to make those. But it was really cool to see their finished products. We had them text or email us a picture of their finished recipe, and then we put them into a drawing for a prize. So we would text or email them back if they won the prize, and then they could show up to the table that next week and pick up a board game or a book, whatever we had that week. So that was really cool to actually see them taking home those recipes and the ingredients that they bought with their dollars and actually cooking as a family. And they almost always ended up liking what they ate, which was interesting. A lot of the recipes we provided were stuff like zucchini fries, baked sweet potatoes, what else? Simple salsas, a salsa verde, lots of different things. And this summer we definitely have more recipes that will be focused on eggs and honey, so a little bit different than just the vegetables like we did last year. But yeah, that was a huge win, was seeing them cooking and talking together.
What about you, Kayla? Do you have some other ideas of some successes?
I just think that with the recipes, it brought families together as well. They got to have some family time and making those recipes and maybe trying fruits or vegetables or different things that in a recipe it tastes different or they probably wouldn't have ate it that way. But just
Mhm.
seeing those families together at farmers market, going from start to finish, them picking out the fruits and vegetables, them taking the recipe home and trying it. Maybe younger siblings or older siblings would help out with those recipes and then seeing their success in, oh yeah, I really like this salsa, or I really liked, this recipe with the zucchini fries. I wouldn't have thought that it would have tasted this way. So
Mhm.
taking a fresh fruit and or vegetable and using it a different way, I think that really helped open their eyes and their doors to trying different things instead of saying, oh, you know, we've had something like that at school. I didn't care for it, or so and so has
Mhm.
made that in the past and I didn't like it. But trying it in a different way and just having that family time together with their siblings and their parents away from all those electronics and everything, and just having them come back to us and say, oh man, I really like that recipe. It tasted so good, I'm gonna go buy some more of this or that this week, and we want to make more of it. And just seeing the pleasure in their face of knowing that, they came to visit us and they took it from A to Z and just doing the whole program, and then the accomplishment at the end on their face. Yeah.
Yeah. And that makes me think that I did have a few parents tell me like, oh, I was gonna take a picture and send it in for the prize, but I was just so busy like helping them cook. And I didn't have time to grab my phone and take a picture. And I just loved that. Like they were so engaged and present and perhaps making a mess and needed to focus on
Yeah.
controlling it in the moment, but it was still like, actually, I love that. Don't send us a picture. Just cook for no reason.
Right.
And
And
just
also seeing older siblings, yeah, they were getting into it. They kind of sidle up with their younger siblings and be like, what's this? But then I think by the end of the summer, we had a few older kids kind of regularly doing our activities and into it just as much. So that was cool too.
awesome. So I guess if a library decides to host the farmers market program, where can they get resources? Where can they find the conversation bingo, all of those resources for the program?
Yeah, right on our website. So if you go to our initiatives page, and Janae, I don't know if you want me to share my screen and
Yeah.
show. Okay.
Oh, yes, feel free. Go ahead. You can share.
You'll have to enable it. I'm sorry.
Oh, you are fine. Let's see.
But yeah, right on our website, if you go to iowapbs.org, we have an education page, and then you can't miss it. It says initiatives. And one of our initiatives this year is the farmers market program. Um, and then you'll see two options for in-state and out-of-state. And let's
You
see.
should be able to share.
Yeah. And since you're a librarian, can we see the vendor bingo?
Yes, now we can.
Okay, cool. 1 second. I need this to go away. There we go. Okay, so here's the bingo. I read off a few questions. You can see that it's also provided in Spanish. Every activity we have in this program is also in Spanish, so it's fully bilingual. So you would just click, we've got a word search here, view resource, and download, and it'll open up the PDF for you to download. And there's usually multiple pages per activity. So that one's really simple, just a little bit of summer literacy, just gamifying it a bit. They're not reading from a book, but they're still reading. It's just a game. Graphing data at the market, so they need to observe something at the farmer's market, tally it up, and then create a little bar graph. So a little bit of summer math. This is a spending log. So it helps them track their market dollars, kind of like a little checkbook type paper for them to add and subtract and keep a running total of what they've spent and what they've spent their market dollars on. We have a rainbow treasure hunt. If you were to do a recipe, we have a template. So you can make a copy of this and then edit it yourself. And if you need some recipe ideas up top, we have a detailed program guide that you can click on. And it takes you through everything we've talked about today, as well as some of our adaptation ideas for the market dollars. But at the very bottom, I'll scroll a little, there are some recipes in both English and Spanish that you can copy and paste onto that template. So there's the zucchini fries, and then it's in Spanish as well. We've got a watermelon salad. And we have even more, if I can get to it again, but we have even more recipes. If you click on the back on the template, I'll show you this because there's a link here as well, and it takes you to another Google Doc full of more recipes. So a honey fruit dip to use some local honey, broccoli mac and cheese, honey granola, more recipe ideas. So you don't have to think of your own. What else? Let's see if I can get this. I always forget how to move the bar in Zoom. Oops. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll show you how to navigate to the site really quick. So if you were to just go to iowapbs.org, it takes you to our homepage. You go up top right here to education. And then, like I said, right smack dab in the middle is initiatives in the teal color, and then the farmers market program. And then your detailed guide that you can download. And then, like I said, because you're a librarian in the state of Iowa, you'll hit the in-state collection. They're just branded a little bit differently. And it takes you to these activities. So here's downloadable market dollars. They have stipulations in both Spanish and English. So if you did find the funding for market dollars, you wouldn't have to create a document or create your own Monopoly money. You can just print this. See if I can move this, so I don't have to keep showing you my alt codes for typing in Spanish. We have another one, a farmers market garden crossword that is has been intentionally created to be a little too hard for kids to do by themselves, because I wanted them to be yelling out to mom and dad, like, do you know the answer to this? But this is definitely teaching them a lot about the horticulture of it all, I suppose, about plants themselves. So there's a lot of fun facts about fruits and vegetables, and specifically Iowa grown fruits and vegetables, the produce they'd find here in Iowa. So not so much about pineapple, but more like tomatoes and rhubarb. And then we've got a color by number. There's 2 versions of those. One that's just number identification for some younger kids, and then one that has a little bit of multiplication and division for some older students. And then along with everyday literacy is a mapping, reading maps and reading directions. So we have a template that you can edit to make a little map of your farmer's market, and then you can ask kids to find certain things on the map and to read the map of your farmer's market to get to certain places. So lots of different activities and more to come. So there will be some that are still being uploaded. But yeah, that's the website.
So you're adding more activities for this summer's program?
We're adding one more for this summer, but it's a big one. It's a farm safety leaflet. So it's a big 2-sided thing that you would print on maybe an 11 by 17, slightly longer paper, and fold in half. And it has a hunt and find activity. So kids need to find examples of some dangerous situations on a farm, like being behind machinery or avoiding grain bins, just kind of some farm 411 that are always good reminders, no matter the age we're at, as well as how to approach some livestock. If you have to approach livestock, not to play in their pens, that sort of thing. So some farm safety activities on a leaflet. That's the one to come this summer.
That's fantastic. This is all awesome. And again, it's free resources on
Free to download, free to print, and
download.
copy and make your own, whatever you need.
Even the farmers market marketing poster, I see Perry's
Yes.
information at the top. You can customize it and download it for your library, for your farmers market. This is cool. This is very cool. And it's in English and Spanish. I love that. Definitely reaching bilingual communities. That's amazing.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, I think Nikki's done a really good job of just making this program as turnkey as possible for anyone who wants to use it. And so, and there again, don't feel like you have to be alone at your library trying to make all of this happen. Recruit your local 4-H kids, recruit some teenagers that are looking for some, silver cord hours.
Yes.
Reach out to partners in your community and ask them to help. Because they could be, very, very helpful to you in a program like this. And use what you want. And certainly we are open to more feedback. So if you have a great idea, which as we've been going around doing some STEM activities with the state library, we've gotten some new ideas that we want to try this year, like some zucchini racers. So we're excited to try some new things and implement those. So don't feel limited by what we have. Branch out, try things, and then give us some feedback.
Yeah, let us know.
We'd love to hear it. We'd love to add some more to the program.
Kayla, any last minute comments from you or thoughts or advice to share?
Ooh, advice.
You know, like we've talked about with Trista and Nikki, you know, knowing a lot of the kids as well in the community, being there, doing outreach and different activities. I would say, you know, that just kudos to them and ditto because, you know, Nikki like took the ball and just like hit a home run with it. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. I mean, it it was a total win-win. And I don't know, like Trista said too, reach out to those young adults, those older teenagers, you know, ask them, you know, hey, are you looking for some volunteer hours? They can relate just as well with those kiddos coming through farmers market, you know, and you never know what connections they're gonna make within the community or with somebody, you know, coming through. Met a lot of great people. I hope that, you know, they come back again this year, which I know they will. And, you know, just it's just a community involvement and an enrichment within the community. And, you know, I just had a blast last summer just going to farmers market and working with these two ladies. And, you know, the resources are there for everybody, and you know, Nikki's made it very simple, and just, you know, just go with it. And even if it's just a small passive activity to start with,
Yeah.
just, you know, it's be part of your community, show your involvement, and reach out to those people, those vendors, those kiddos, and let them know that you're there for them.
Awesome. And how can libraries con who should they contact for more information?
Definitely me or Trista. We can put our emails somewhere. I'm not sure where, but they can email us directly.
Absolutely. And I can add that also as
Yeah.
well. So, well, thank you all for joining us for the Kernels. Thank you, Nikki. Thank you, Trista, and thank you, Kayla. We appreciate all the information that you shared today. And for those that are watching at your library or at home, don't forget we have lots of kernels, lots of videos on our State Library of Iowa continuing education page. If you're watching this on Workday, make sure you fill out the quiz form for that CE credit. If you're watching it on YouTube, you can log on to Workday afterwards and fill out a form for CE credit as well. Thank you to everyone for joining us and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thanks, Janeé.
So, bye.
Thanks, Kayla. It was so good to see you.
It was good to see you guys too. Thanks for all your help.